Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, our regular Wednesday show with, we are blessed, both guests. So,
Hello.
hello. Mac, your microphone is a little bit low. If you
All
can
right.
bring it up and bring it up as much as you can, and I'll tone it down if necessary, okay?
All
Mm.
right. Got it. Says it's all the way up. Oh, here we
Brother
go.
Steve, oh striped one, how have you been?
I have been okay. Yesterday I was very slow and tired, but today
Hmm.
I think I am okay. It's noon and I don't want to fall asleep, not yet. So
All right.
things are good.
All right.
And Mr. Mac,
Oh, I'm doing great too. Thank you. Got plenty of sleep yesterday, and how's is the mic better now?
I have it up at 200%. It's still a little bit low by my perception. How do you perceive
Huh.
it, Steve?
I find it a bit soft but acceptable. I say we not worry about it or fuss over it.
I'll put it
All right.
right up next to my mouth.
Mm.
That's a little bit better, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Moon
Okay,
Medi.
peace and respect, Commander 401, also Harple Blues and Moon Medi, anyone else who might watch this in the future. I hope for these shows, which are relatively unrehearsed. I mean, we barely ever discuss anything we're going to discuss on the show before the show, and I hope you all realize that because the point is to entertain these minds, yours and the panel's minds, to challenge me to say, well, come on, Richard, you certainly can't justify this thing. And here's the interesting part to me. Humans have this intrinsic system for judging lies. It's a survival mechanism. We need it. We can't accept lies in life. Now, some people are missing it, but the majority of us, we have that intrinsic ability. And we can tell when someone's like waffling or being dishonest or beating around
Mm.
the
Sure.
bush, or we have all those kinds of expressions where we
Yeah.
can say, I get this feeling this person is not being forthcoming. Right? So that's what you should be watching for. Try to find where Richard is not forthcoming, where he's like mixing it up a little bit or trying to distract from the topic. Don't answer it. All of
Mm-hmm.
these kinds of
Mm.
tactics. Because I want you to know, I want you to be absolutely assured as I am that this methodology of looking at ancient religions actually works. And I turn over the floor uncomfortably and kind of haphazardly to Mac and Steve. It's all you guys.
Well, can I alert Mac to what we discussed previously? Because maybe this will be a good starting off point.
What we were
The
talking.
Yeah, you missed that episode, and what I was asking Richard about was that it seemed to me a couple of times where Greek myths, where hubris is punished,
Mm.
um, reminded me a bit of some of the stories in the Bible.
Oh, sure.
And but we came up with a couple of examples, and we talked a bit about Greek myths. And I thought, well, maybe we should, maybe Mac, maybe that congruence would interest you, or maybe a story from the Bible comes to mind.
Well, there's also examples that come to mind immediately from Greek mythology where hubris doesn't get punished, where it's
Mm,
just like where it's just sort of like the way a certain character is,
hmm
like Zeus and all of his rape victims, for instance. Turning himself into sexy different animals and going down and seducing whoever he fell his eye fell on. That happened over and over and over again. That sounds like hubris to me, and seemed almost like he got rewarded for it with children and progeny and more stories and things like that.
Excuse me.
Not at all. Not at all. My children right now are reading this fiction series that's heavily influenced by Greek mythology. It's called I think Percy Jackson or Percy something, where the
I've
characters
heard of
are
that.
Yeah, it's a really neat fantasy sort of series. Um, but they need to, like, I've noticed they have to tone down some of the traditional characteristics of these deities.
Hmm.
It's interesting though that you guys were talking about that. I didn't get to watch last week's show, but it's been on my mind because of this series that my children are involved in, and the way that the most obvious congruence for me between the whole Greek mythology structure and the way that I understand Richard approaches all sacred stories is the whole movement from the Titans to the, to the Mount Olympus gods, like that, and then the imprisonment of the Titans in Tartarus. I think it's even called in the Greek mythology, which that's like a one-to-one map onto the Old Testament. So um, there's it's easy for me to see Mount Everest being the New Jerusalem, being heaven, where this collection of perfected beings exist and do battle with the previous like powerful beings and defeat them, you know, and imprison them within the dark caverns of the earth. Carol the atheist. And also, like, I mean, there's prophecy within Greek mythology that those titans will be unleashed again one day. So, I don't know, like, I'm not any kind of expert or anything, but those have been my thoughts kind of over the week about that.
When the Titans are unleashed again, do they destroy the Earth or all of existence?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure
What do they
happens.
do when they are released?
I think it's just a vague, like, yeah, be careful because they're not there. They're still alive. They're not, they will come back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of my impression on it. I'm not sure though. That's a great question.
I'm consulting the Google machine as we speak.
What would you expect, Richard?
I would actually expect that the Titans are the chaos before the organization of the planet, and that chaos is always held at bay, and that the release of the chaos would result in the destruction of the knowable thing. In this case, the Earth. In our case, the Earth itself. Not that it would destroy the universe, although Christians have a tendency to expand it to the whole universe in creation, in maintenance, in destruction. I've even heard Christians say something like, "Oh, on Judgment Day, God ends the universe," and I'm just like, "Yeah, you're welcome to that or whatever." But
the multiverse.
Yeah, the multiverse will be destroyed. But yeah, just whatever anybody says, it goes all the way to the end of it. And of course, I don't see any such claims. But indeed, it is true that if you like, let's see, what are the characters in that religious expression? Poseidon, I think, is the ocean god.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you piss off Poseidon to where he draws back the oceans, this releases like fire titans, because it really would.
Yeah.
Because it really actually would,
Right. There's volcanoes down there.
I see ideas like that are true in physicality. Would result in all the same story, the same. Go ahead.
Of course, I also was thinking that about our previous discussion about Prometheus, who seems to map onto the savior figure pretty well in some ways, and he was a Titan too. He was just one of the ones that was allowed to hang out after the war. So
I actually see Prometheus as the same as the Elohim, preceding the existence of Adam and Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. That it does provide knowledge, but its liver, or the source of its emotions, is being constantly eaten, so it can never be developed.
Oh, that's okay.
Because was it the Greeks that had that
Yeah.
story?
Yeah. Hmm.
Because the Greeks considered the liver the center of emotion.
Okay.
Okay, not the
Interesting.
heart. They said liver.
Right.
So the eagle of Zeus is eating the liver of Prometheus, never letting it develop. So it's like saying he's an emotionless being tied to this rock. Now, he is intelligent, and he is a provider of technology and information to mankind.
Right.
He definitely was. In fact, if he's the Elohim, which is Satan and his kind, then they had high technology, which in the slave revolt, Exodus, was stolen. So there's definitely this idea that he was the provider of that which man needs to move forward, and man does move forward away from him, and he's left behind and chained.
Right.
And you could say God hardens his heart, or the eagle eats his liver.
Interesting. What'd you find out about the Titans coming back, Steve?
I've been looking around for it. It took quite a while because there's so much popular culture about the Titans, like a team of superheroes, and football teams that have the name Titans.
That's true too.
Eventually, I found the goddamn thing, but I don't have a line on. As far as I know, the Titans just remain in the underworld.
Oh, okay.
So but there may be prophecy.
I'd still love to see what you find out about that if you could continue with it.
Sure.
It seems to me some of these things, Mac, are just true in reality, right? Like, for instance, I've gone up to people on the street, just for my personal edification, and asked them for definitions of hope and faith individually on different occasions with different people.
Okay.
And I've done this probably about 30 times, because you don't need very many examples. When you ask a person for a definition of hope, they're going to give you a definition of faith. When you ask a person for a definition of faith, they're going to give you a definition of faith. So for both of those things, they give the same definition, faith. So they conflate, as if there's no word hope. Like it's not a separate thing than faith. Go ahead, Steve.
I need to apologize, you guys. I have to run.
Oh,
I just got an urgent message, and I got to take care of it now.
No problem.
Newborn zebras also dance, so it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
They do.
I apologize for this. Bye-bye
It's
now.
fine. Bye.
So the reason I bring that up is, and I want to identify what I think, because it was my experience in 2012 that made me realize there was a difference between those two terms. I never knew there was a difference between those two terms. And it's kind of contested and difficult, and people can't do it, which makes the religious story true, which I find very interesting. That when Pandora opens the chest of human emotions, and they'd never been experienced before, she's kind of shocked and doesn't know what to do. Is kind of like frozen in time, like, what the hell is all this? Because it's like flowing through her, and she's feeling them. And there was not emotion before that. Let that ring a bell. There was not emotion before that. But finally gathers her wits, slams the box, closes it, and puts the lock back on it, trapping one emotion, which is hope. Well, that's really interesting. Because it's like saying all human emotions are free to be felt but hope. And then when I go on the street and ask people, they do not know what hope is.
That's
they do
interesting.
Not. That is, I'm claiming that's true today. It's still true. It's absolutely a truth of humanity. And I find no exceptions. Except that I prayed about it. And I experienced a little glimmer of a tiny, tiny thing. Faith is the ability to, because of what a person trusts, to trudge forward through a swamp. And it's hard. And it's not pleasurable. And they trudge forward believing there's an end, that's faith, believing there's an end to the swamp somewhere. That so long as they just walk in a straight line, they're going to make it through that swamp at some point. That's faith.
Okay.
Hope is being in the swamp, seeing the hard bank on the other side. That's the difference. The one trudging through has faith that there is an end to the swamp because it logically follows there's an end to the swamp. Mm-hmm. The one who has hope is still in the swamp. They're not done. They're not out of it. But they see the end of it. And they are not in a faith position that there must be an end. They experience the end. They are assured. They are not in a faith position. So hope is based in trust. I'm sorry, faith is based in trust. Hope is based in assuredness.
Ah. I'm letting that sink in. There's that seems to conflict with, I mean, as soon as you said I asked people for the definition of hope and faith, I started to think how I would answer that. And
how would you?
I think you're missing a component of in hope of sort of longing, of uncertainty, actually. I mean,
really?
When somebody says that they hope their football team will win or something, you know, they're not sure it's going to happen, right? But if they say they have faith that their football team's going to win, they mean that they don't have any uncertainty, that they're certain, you know, they have faith, that they believe in the guys, you know.
Why would they use the word faith there?
I mean, faith is usually used in the context of certainty, I think. I mean,
faith is used in the context of certainty, although faith is the hope in things not seen.
That's the biblical definition, yeah, which I struggle to understand in any kind of meaningful way. The hope in things, or the evidence for things unseen, sometimes people say, or the evidence of things otherwise unexperienced, except for through the faith. That's an even vaguer one.
Faith is the stronger position than hope.
At least in my understanding of the words and the way they're used generally. I mean, typically you ask for off-the-cuff definitions, so that's where I'm at in terms of like common usage and how I would use those words.
That's fair.
Although I really try not to use the word faith anymore because I'm uncomfortable with it, frankly. I think it's a kind of a trap word in theological discussions. People mean different things.
It depends on how honest a person can be about their actual experience. It doesn't have to be a trap. That trap can be easily let go of.
Yeah, I don't mean like a deliberately set trap. I mean like two people might get on different... Yeah, oh yeah, definitely sometimes. But, I mean, you might get trapped in an unproductive conversation if you start using the word too much. Yeah, so but that's interesting, like, especially tied to the Pandora thing. And I'd really like to dive a little bit more into that moment of the opening of the box, you know, and this representation of the dawning of the emotional landscape onto humanity. Is that the divine invasion?
Well, right now, before we move on that far, I still want to, if I am experiencing this or explaining this, or I'm just evidently wrong, I'd like to know about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it might be a plea of self-confirmation or circular reasoning to say something like, "You prove my point," that people have mixed up hope and faith, and that they don't really actually know the difference, and it's interchangeably used, which would have been my original claim. But that's only self-confirmation, and it's no confirmation for me to say, "See, I was right."
Right.
Right?
Well, my response was to the swamp metaphor, um, which was a good one for me because I've been in both of those situations. So, like, I know what it's like to just say, look, let's just pick a direction, and keep that sun on this side of us, and just keep going that way. Eventually, we'll hit a road or a river or something. I've been in that situation, and I was young, and I was with my father, and he was the one telling me that, and I believed him. It made logical sense. And
Right.
even though I was exhausted and I didn't have any better ideas, so I trudged along with him through that swampy area. It was actually a bog in upstate New York, and fairly treacherous. And we found some railroad tracks and followed those back to a road eventually. So, and I've also been stuck like in a swamp up to my hips and see the shore and know that all I got to do is make some more effort to get there. And those are the situations you're describing, right? And the latter
Yes.
one would be hope in the definition. That's where I disagree. I don't think I would call that hope. If I was stuck in that swamp and I saw that, I mean, maybe I would say I hope I've got enough strength left in me to get to the shore, if that's what you
Let's
mean.
avoid using those two words,
Okay.
because I think that would be muddying the waters, right?
Okay.
Okay, so in that actual day, you said you were up to your hips?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Oh, it means I had sunk into the swamp. This was actually a swamp.
Okay.
And it was much deeper than I thought it would be. And so I was in the muck. It was past my waist. So I was
So
like
the
moving my legs like that, like
I
kind
want to
of.
be clear, the water was over your waist or the muck was over your waist?
It was muck. It's a swamp. Yeah. So
Okay.
a very thick, mucky swamp. Yeah. Rotted
And
vegetable matter.
and you found I've heard, I've never experienced this, okay? But I've
Mm-hmm.
heard actually if you put your weight downward,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you move around, you just settle deeper into the muck. Is that true?
Oh, I mean, there can be a bottom.
Was there a
This.
bottom?
Yes. Yes. I was
So you
walking
were
along the
standing on
bottom.
solid ground
Yes.
and up to your waist
This
perhaps, or about the waist in
Yeah.
muck.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, depending on where. Sometimes there was a tree stump that I could climb up on top of and kind of get both of my legs out. But,
Sometimes you mean it happened more than once.
I mean, in my journey to the shore, it was a, it was,
Well, I
I
want
had
to talk
to.
about your the okay, the point at which you are furthest from the shore, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But you are in the swamp
Yeah.
and you are in one of these pockets of muck
Yeah.
that are very hard to traverse.
Yes. They are.
Okay.
And they smell, and there might be leeches. There's likely leeches.
Oh yeah,
It's
almost
treacherous.
definitely.
Yeah.
Someplace like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, leeches.
Ugh.
Those are fun always. Okay, so you're in that situation, and you're the furthest, because I want to make the worst possible scenario.
Okay.
You're the furthest you can be from the shore, but you see the shore, and you're in one of these pockets.
Right.
Now, apparently, you'd been in that for some distance. Yeah, and there were points at which you were in one of these pockets you could not see the shore. Yes?
No.
You could
No.
always see the shore on the other
Yeah.
side.
I knew. Yeah. Actually, it was It was going to be uphill after I got through the swamp, so I could see like the hill that I was going to climb after I got through the swamp. I could see that ahead the whole time. Yeah. I knew how wide it was. I just didn't know how deep it was going to be. So I
Okay,
thought I
so
could get through it.
as you entered into the more treacherous landscape, off of something more solid,
Right.
which you say was actually surprisingly swampy, you didn't expect it to be the muck to be quite so thick. You thought it might be knee deep.
Ankle deep. Yeah.
You thought it might be ankle deep.
Yeah.
But
I
you
had my
could
good
always
boots on.
see the other shore from the time you started crossing it.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you try not to use words like hope and faith? No, the words hope and faith, and describe your emotional states as you were entering, as you were traversing, as you were coming out the other side.
Okay. Emotional states.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as I was entering, I had I felt determination, anticipation, expectation. I felt those things. Then, when I got stuck, I guess, or when I started to sink, I felt surprise and, probably frustrated. It's hard to remember, really.
It's okay.
Often when I'm in the woods, I'm just kind of going with the flow and I don't usually feel frustrated by whatever situation I end up in, but
Right, but this is an extreme situation.
yeah. And then determined and I guess sort of focused and I but and then when I got to the other side, relief, maybe some self-criticism. Like, why did I do that? Why didn't I just take the trail?
Questions for you?
Sure.
Okay, so entering in, you said determined, having expectation. Expectation of what?
Right. I was trying to just say emotions, so I
Right.
had expectations of what I would find on the other side. I was going to a specific place in the woods, so
Okay.
I was,
So
I
not
had
expectation about
direction.
the near experience that we're trying to describe,
Not really.
but
I probably
overall
barely thought about it.
expectation and determination because of the expectation.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
so
Yeah.
what made you think you would survive this before you stepped into it?
Eh, habit. I don't think survival was on my mind. I mean, I know that at any point something could happen to us all, but I don't think about it a lot,
Okay.
So
you weren't fearful in any way.
No.
When you said surprised and frustrated, you're talking about when you actually sink down into a pocket of muck.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, great.
Because it's more than you thought it was, and it was
Yes.
difficult to get out of.
Yes.
But you never felt like, I'm going to die.
No, I never had that. I never had that fear.
You never had the possibility cross your mind that you might fail.
It might have occurred to me. I really think the loss that I was worried about was my boots getting stuck in the bottom, or like
That's a real
something in my
possibility.
pocket getting ruined, So, hey, back. Ambrojo, Harple, everybody. Sorry, I've been focusing on Richard's line of questioning. I want to do this. So
I just wanted to give him a quick respect. I didn't even want to speak about it, but go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay, so you're surprised and frustrated at the depth and thickness of the muck, and the only thing you're really concerned with is that one of your boots ain't going to be recovered.
Yeah, I mean, it almost seemed like it was
seems
probably going to
reasonable.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, that seemed
Was
like a
gonna.
reasonable. Yeah. But at no time did you think, oh, I may perish here. This might be
No.
the end of my life, because you were near civilization.
Right.
Uh, there was always, you said there was something, firm to grab hold of somewhere.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not exactly a quicksand. This is actually like the perfect situation to talk about this very thing.
Oh,
For
cool.
those who just came in, we're trying to figure out by experience, in reality, avoiding the words faith and hope, talking about real world examples, how we might discern the difference between faith and hope. Because I am asserting, actively in the positive, that human beings do not know the difference between faith and hope, which is why they can't give clear definitions, and why whose box was that again? I just said it a few minutes ago.
Pandora.
Pandora's
Pandora's
box
box.
is
Yeah.
true. It's
Right.
absolutely true that hope is locked to the end of the earth. It's not an emotion that humans experience. Okay. So you said entering into this. You said bog. Is that what you said? Bog.
No, this was a swamp. The bog was
Swamp.
the one where I was led. That was much bigger. That's the one where I was with my father, and he
Okay.
guided us out. Yeah. That was
Okay.
my example of faith.
Okay. So in this swamp, you were at first. You could see the other side. You were at first determined and having expectation.
Hmm.
That makes sense. On occasion, you'd find an especially thick pocket of muck, and that would surprise you and frustrate you. But you managed to get out of each of them individually. Um, as as you were progressing across this, you felt determined and focused. Like I should be paying attention to this. This is not nothing.
That's
And
right.
it's work,
Yeah. Right.
right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you felt determined. That is, you're going to reach your goal. You're not going to quit.
Right.
You're not like exhausted or
Right.
feeling like feeling like you're not.
Panicky
There's
or
not something. I don't want to suggest too much, but
yeah.
you're not. I want to ask questions that make sense in the moment without suggesting too much. So by determined and focused, you meant that you were relatively sure you could do it, right?
Hmm.
And you had been doing it for more than one occurrence of a mucky pocket,
Hmm.
and and you felt like you were going to get to the other side.
Right.
Okay. And then you said, coming up out of it on the other side, you felt relief, and then you started like criticizing yourself and your path and what you chose to do and whether or not that was the smartest thing.
For sure.
So I think criticism overall is not part of this picture.
No.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
you were relieved on the other side. Relieved from what?
Um, I suppose a relief that the struggle was over. That I'd gotten through it. That I was done. I could rest for a second and wipe the mud off of my legs and check for leeches and stuff. Yeah.
Squeegee the mud off your legs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I've
best
been
to
in a
just let
similar
it.
situation, and yeah, it's just sticky and everywhere, and just like I don't know, what I experienced was like a half-inch thick coating.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's so
yeah,
much. It's,
and it's heavy. It's surprisingly heavy
yeah.
when you're finally done and you realize how much weight you're carrying. It feels like 60 pounds or maybe more. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I misspoke before. The example in the bog was with my father was hope
Was what?
because it fits my definition of hope or my understanding of that word. And the
Okay.
one we're talking about fits faith because there was certainty, There
Okay.
was a level of certainty, I guess. Is that where you're going to challenge me? There's not absolute certainty. Faith should be absolute certainty, right? No?
Well, let me talk about this experience of a swamp.
Okay.
Okay, so when you decided on your path, you were on solid ground.
Mm-hmm.
When you got to the other side, you were on solid ground.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When you decided your path, you could see the solid ground on the other side.
Yep.
Okay. So, taking all of that into consideration, do you think that it was an expectation in things unseen?
No.
So it was an expectation in things seen.
Right. Or at least known. Yeah, I guess I wasn't exactly expecting the other shore, although we can contextualize it that way.
You weren't what?
Where I was going was over the hill. It was on the other side. That's what I was really thinking about
Right.
as I started to cross, I was thinking about this one destination.
Oh, I get it. Just like,
yeah.
oh, I recognize that hill. Where I want to go is on the other side of this hill. I can go
Yeah.
around all this, or
Yeah.
I can be cute and smart and take a shortcut. Oh, I
You
get
know
it.
exactly. Yeah. You know what I did. Yeah.
Because you're a 20-something-year-old male and you're
Yeah.
bulletproof. And it doesn't matter.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I've been there. I've been that dude. Yeah. I got myself in some pretty awkward situations doing that. Like on the side of a cliff,
Oh, geez.
trying to climb down,
Yes.
run out of root balls to grab hold of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's wet and muddy, and there's some like shale sticking out in places, but nothing to really
no.
grab hold of. Oh yeah, I've been there. Like there's
My
a
dad
lot of
says-
West Virginia terrain that is very much like that cliff. That
Oh,
little cliff
yeah.
I just described. A lot of it.
My father says real men don't take trails, they make trails.
There you go. And sometimes die.
Tough guy. Yep, exactly.
Sometimes die. But they're real men. Can't say they're not. Okay. So, standing on solid ground, having determination and expectation, can see the solid ground on the other side, your goal area.
Right.
Right. We're at times surprised and frustrated, but always determined and focused, only relieved of the task
Right.
when the task had been accomplished. Okay, so is this things unseen, or was everything seen? Because I'm going to say, calling this, which one would you say you would call it, faith?
Faith, yeah.
You'd call this one faith? I think it's an anti-biblical definition of faith.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just going with common usage, Like if somebody had asked me at one point, like, do you have faith that you'll get to the other side? I would have said yes. I do. I mean, I'm definitely going to get there,
But out of the context of this conversation, if that same person had and said, did you have hope you'd get to the other side, would you have said yes?
I would have said that's a poor use of the word hope. I would
Really?
have said, yeah.
Think so?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Fair enough.
I mean, I probably wouldn't have said that, but you know what I mean. I would say that now in this abstract arena.
That's what I
At
mean.
the-
But
yeah.
outside of this conversation, and without the cues
Well, I'd be
of
polite.
what we're
I
already
wouldn't-
thinking about.
If somebody, I don't know, hey, do you hope? I think I would answer no. I have certainty. I know I'm going to. It isn't a hope thing, It's a knowledge thing. I probably
Okay.
wouldn't have said faith either.
Right.
I don't, because like I said, I avoid that word anyway.
Right.
It leads to confusion,
Yeah.
which is the point you're making,
Yes, it
So,
is.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that.
All right. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm going to. 'Cause I have to get real close to the camera, and I have big pores.
Oh,
So no, I'm just kidding. I don't have big pores. Things unseen, I think, is how the King James. Nope, apparently not. What is the exact What are some exact words right there? Hoped
Faith
for?
is the proof. Faith is the evidence for, I think. I don't know. I feel
There
like
it
I've
is.
heard
Hebrews
it said a
1,
million times.
Hebrews 11:1. Found it.
Yeah. Things not seen.
Found it.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm gonna share just so everyone else can follow along, boys and girls. Okay, do we see that? Yes, we do. Let me get us as teeny tiny as possible.
The substance.
Okay, so I'm gonna because this is the beginning of a quote-unquote chapter, which things do not exist, and context is important within these pretend chapters. I want to read what was just before this. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to read 3. For yet a little while, and he that shall come will come, and will not tarry. Now the just shall live by faith, but if any, I don't want to read the hyphenated words, they weren't there. But if draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. But we are not of them who draw back into perdition, but of them that believe to the saving of the soul. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear.
What?
By faith, Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it he being dead yet speaketh. Want me to leave that up?
Sure.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, none of this makes sense to me.
Right. Which goes to prove my point.
Okay.
That it's true that man cannot define the difference in even like their own emotional states, how to reckon what is hope from that which is faith.
The substance of things hoped for.
Right.
So it's the stuff that the things are made out of that are hoped for.
Right.
Okay. And
So-
it's also
so
the
this-
evidence of things not seen.
Right.
So we have no other evidence except for the faith of it.
Right. Okay.
Because obviously they
Uh,
mean apprehended,
and-
not just seen, right? We're not talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
visual.
Well, the word
yeah.
seen in the Hebrew is the idea of personal experience of a thing with understanding.
Right, right. So understanding it, right.
So it's not like I walked by a tree glancing out the side of my eyeball and recognized there is a tree there. That's not good
Right.
enough.
Right.
To see it, you have to walk up to it, be within good distance for your eyeballs, check out what kind of tree it is, what kind of bugs are living in it,
Right.
understand the tree.
Right, right.
Okay.
Totally. All
Okay,
right,
so
so
that's
so to
intrinsically in the
paraphrase
word.
that, then okay, then here's this thing that isn't seen, but we have evidence of it, and it's faith. Yeah, that I was about to say your faith, but it doesn't even say that. It's just faith as a noun. So, yep, that doesn't have meaning for me. And then even
So it was
worse,
talking
the next
about the
line.
faith of the believing, right? Okay.
Mhm.
And the concretization of what's hoped for, the substance. And then faith is that which gives us evidence of the unseen things which are to be concretized. Okay? And I do know of logical induction where there is good cause to believe a thing you have not seen.
Okay, that's true.
Okay, that's how we found Tiktaalik.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So we
powerful,
had
yeah.
physical evidence and belief and faith in a thing that it would be there. We could not show it was there at that point, but concretized the faith in hope when it was found.
Right.
And we celebrated. Look, we found Tiktaalik. All right.
Right.
Right? It was
Right.
concretized. It was made solid.
But it was also like a told you so moment because they knew they'd find
Never
it.
mind what people intended to do with it.
No, I'm
That's-
talking
it-
about
it-
whether they knew they'd find it or not. Like I'm talking about the that aspect of what we're talking about.
Right.
You know, whether they had certainty. They did have certainty. Like they weren't surprised by their discovery. They were thrilled by it, but they weren't surprised, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
So that's what I'm saying Christian faith is that same Tiktaalik moment. Okay? That because of evidence personally experienced in the past, there was a reasonable expectation of the future, not yet concretized. So they had a level of faith
right.
that it would happen, right?
Right.
And then when it did happen, they were able to concretize that and say it has happened. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that it has happened that makes it hope. I know that's hard to grasp. I know that's not how we use it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at this that way, I think it is laughable, the atheistic accusation that faith is things you can't prove. It's only the evidence of things not yet seen, and it's reasonable to hold that you will see them. So what I'm saying is, in your entire story of crossing the swamp, you actually had hope the whole time. And this was never a faith position. Which is why you were determined and expecting. Which is why, although you were sometimes surprised and frustrated, you remained determined and focused. You were able to. You didn't give up. At no point did you lose your faith thinking, I might die here.
Right.
And we're only experiencing relief of the effort. You always knew you were going to get through it.
That's right.
Okay. Go ahead, man. It's your floor.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, so your understanding of this verse is that, or this definition of faith is that it's describing inductive reasoning. You're saying that
Yes.
this is, yeah. That's nice. That's clear. I like that. And it locks into the next verse too. I mean, whoever the elders are, they can use that inductive reasoning to get a good report, or like a clear report. They could get like a understanding of at least certain realities through using that inductive reasoning. So
Right.
yeah, so if that's what's being described there, I don't have any problems with that at all. That's not even complicated.
And then
really,
Hebrews
you know.
11:3 is the blueprint for the builder.
Okay, let's
That
see if I
the
can grapple
blueprint
with this.
itself is all abstracts and representations of things to be made by ideas.
Things to be made by ideas.
Yes, because ideas do make things. Now, in between those two steps, there has to be a set of, physical hands. But ideas make things.
Halcyonic has a good point.
Which was?
The last thing, there can be no evidence of unseen things unless the unseen things have already emerged from similar situations. So, in other words,
Not true.
we can't propose something that hasn't been demonstrated to exist as a solution to a line of inductive reasoning, or we shouldn't anyway.
Now, how did you take that? Because I took it a little bit, I think, more rigidly than you did.
Oh, I thought what was meant is that we can't use something that hasn't been demonstrated to exist as a solution to a line of inductive reasoning. We have to stick, or we shouldn't anyway. It's not a good practice to. We should stick to already demonstrated. It's a good habit to stick to already demonstrated phenomenon or realities.
Sure.
So if all you have is inductive reasoning, so if, I think maybe Halsey is talking about straight to God.
What?
Well, straight to
God.
like going straight from faith to God. Like this is usually faith is talked about in terms of I have faith in God or in God existing. And so the atheistic argument, I know you're familiar with this, is you can't say faith is the evidence for God.
No, faith should not be the evidence for God.
Right.
Should not, I believe.
And that's the traditional way to read Hebrews 11:1 is that
Yeah.
that's exactly what's
disagree.
going on. Yeah. Oh, you disagree with that reading, or you disagree that that's the traditional reading?
I agree. I disagree. That is the tradition. You were accurate.
Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure that's what I've read.
I know that what you said was a decent quote of Christianity overall. It's fine.
Right. Yeah.
I just don't agree that's the correct way to read this.
Yeah. Well, I like your way better. It fits better. And if you're talking about Tiktaalik, then we're not talking about. I mean, that wasn't something that was conjured out of nowhere. That was
right.
Yeah,
not
that was
at all.
Yeah. Like maybe the specifics of Tiktaalik, but we had a real good idea of generalities about the form of that beast. So I don't know. Yeah, let's do.
In my experience, I experience persons, and those persons prove themselves extant by having experiences different than mine and sharing with me ideas that are against what I think could be true or is true. That is, they teach. Okay?
Right.
So when a mind teaches, I'm suspicious it's not mine.
Uh-huh.
I think that's rational, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And if that continues, and I continue to test in reality against what they're saying, and I find them to be truthful, then inductively, if they're 100% truthful, then inductively I can say something like, they should continue to be, I know it's uniformitarianism, it can't be proven, but you can have reasonable expectation, they will continue to tell truths.
Right.
Okay? That is to say, the fossil record demanded that there be a transitional fossil between
Exactly.
an aquatic lizard-like or frog-like creature. I'm sorry, lizard-like creature into a more amphibious frog-like creature, but is still very lizard-like.
Right.
And when we searched a part of the Earth where we found those sets of fossils on either side with that gap in between, and we dug down to what should be approximately the correct layer to find in time where such an animal should be, we found the animal. That's inductive reasoning and an act of faith based in trust because of a past record. And there's nothing unreasonable about that faith position. Nothing at all.
Right.
What's that?
I said, and the elders obtained a good report.
Yes.
The elders at the university that whoever funded
precisely.
that,
They did.
Yeah.
They did obtain a good report. That is true.
Yeah, it's perfect. That's a great great way to explain it.
Now, how Sonic, this actually kind of surprises me of you. If something is an objectively true thing, it does not depend upon belief or faith or awareness of its existence at all. Yeah, that is overall true. That there are things outside of our knowledge that do exist, and I have no problem with them objectively existing outside of my knowledge. It's actually the best evidence I have against solipsism. But this can't be your final point. I need you to summate, or my brain needs you to summate. Maybe no one else needs that. I don't know.
I think maybe they're talking about the 11.3 here, where it says I'm sorry, can you bring it back? I just had my eyes on it. Yeah,
No problem, sorry.
Where it talks about using faith to construct stuff. So in that way, they would depend on faith. The actual stuff would depend on faith, in a way. Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed. The worlds were framed by the word of God. So that indicates that they somehow depend on faith, that the worlds depend on faith. And
The
things
worlds
which are
depend on faith?
Yeah,
Is that what
because
you're
it was
saying?
because it's through faith. I'm just trying to kind of suss out what Halsey might be driving at there. Because
Okay.
through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed. So, if that's true, then there's a dependence, or
I think what that reads there is we understand through faith.
Right.
Not
sure.
through proof,
Okay.
but through past relationship.
Right. So that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Man, that sounds so goofy to me. Things which are seen.
Okay, which naturally appear.
I mean, things that are seen are made out of things which do appear.
That's why I want to put the word naturally for clarity there.
Where is the word naturally?
I'm sticking it in there. I think it's implied.
Where are you sticking it? I mean,
which do appear naturally.
At the end.
Because this is talking about altering physical things. Just like in Genesis 1.
So we're seeing things that are not made of things that appear naturally.
Right.
So we're seeing artificial things.
Yes.
When we look at worlds.
Yes.
Ah. Now I see the Madsen angle. Yes, all right.
This whole thing is contrived. This is not naturally occurring.
Gotcha.
It's all been transplanted from a natural occurrence.
So
but this is contrived.
Gotcha. This is the realization we'll have through faith, is that all of this is artifice, that the worlds were framed by the word of God, which that's probably logos, right? That's probably should be capitalized.
Yeah, well, this is the King James, and they capitalized this. They didn't capitalize that, and I have problems with all that. And
yeah.
Where were we? You wanted 3?
Yeah.
Pistis, literal faith. I don't even know how to say that. Noeo, noetics, knowledge,
sure.
understanding.
Yeah.
Ho, which is just simple that,
Connector,
the, like you're pointing at a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Aeon, do you want that one?
We could spend 6 shows on that, right?
I'm telling you, man.
Let's save that for another day.
Okay. Katartizo, I guess, something like that.
Yeah, we're framed.
Of course, I'm
That's
basing
cool.
my understanding of Greek on Italian, which is not a grand idea. It's not even probably close. Let me bring that up real quick. Never mind the translation. I want to know what the words were. Oh. A repair or adjustment. to fit, frame, mend,
Right.
make perfect, perfectly joined together, prepare, restore. That's a little bit different than what they wrote there. Framed. Yeah, framed. Yeah. I mean, yeah, framed. But
Framed like
wow,
a
that's why
expert
I object to
carpenter.
these yeah. It's not
Yeah.
just framed.
Yeah.
It's like altered, perfected, framed out, and framed out with skill.
Right.
You know, not just like you hold your fingers up like this. Oh, you're framed.
Right.
Stop. It's not like a hairdresser frames your face with your hair, just kind of like generally like, you know, complements the shape.
Right.
No. No, not that kind of frame.
Harema.
Crema.
I don't know this word.
Something like that.
I like it. I like the sound.
Yeah. Matter or topic. Narration command dispute.
Interesting.
Yep.
So that is a word. An utterance. It's not logos. It's not, you know, a manifestation. It's a spoken, it's an utterance.
Yeah. And I would say absolutely all of this, which is what I said in the first place, all falls under immaterial constructs.
Right.
Expression of immaterial construct.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's fair. I don't think we need to look up Theos.
No.
I think we got that.
Those
are ice, ho. That's pretty.
Yeah, that's fine.
Blepo, which is not knowledge. Okay, so how are they using this? Usages to see, discern of the bodily eye. Okay, so to see and discern. To be possessed of sight, having the power of seeing. Right, all of these.
Right.
Also, metaphorically, to have the power of understand. Okay, fine, I'm okay with it. To discern, mentally observe, perceive, discover, understand, to turn thoughts, to direct mind to the thing, consider, contemplate, to look at, to weigh, carefully examine. In the sense of geographical locations, places, mountains, buildings, turning towards any quarter as if it were facing it. So there. Behold.
Sure.
Okay.
But deeply behold, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, behold is never shallow.
Right.
Yeah. But behold is never glance.
Gotcha. Okay.
Not at all.
So that's redundant. Behold is deeply seeing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, gotcha.
In fact, I have some hippie friends who insist upon using the word behold to their infant children. Just learning speech and understanding. And when they use the word behold, they'll talk deeply about the item, which I really like.
Might have to give that a try.
Yeah. Seems like it's good brain training, I think.
Yeah.
And by the way, their children exceedingly proceed children their age, respectively.
Yeah.
Ganamahe, I guess. Middle voice, primary verb, to cause to be, to generate, irreflexibly, to become, or come into being, used with great latitude, broadly applied. Arise, be assembled, become, befall, behave self, be brought to pass, to become to pass, come to pass, continue, be divided, draw, be ended, fall, be finished, etc., etc., etc. So generally, make. Is that okay? Make.
Yeah, I think make's a good word for that.
Make. So I can make. I'm okay with made then, I guess.
Yeah.
Of things we do up here. I hate it when they do that.
One word.
Things we do up here. Gosh. You know, I can test that probably 75% of the interjected words to make it English are not necessary.
Yeah.
Faino. Probably said wrong. To lighten, to shine, as in to cause a thing to be enlightened and shiny.
Oh, how about that?
To show.
Yeah.
Transibly or intransibly, literally or figuratively, to appear, to seem, to be seen, to shine, times think. Alright. So I think this has everything to do with enlightenment of the mind.
Right, right.
Not a sun shining on a tree.
Right.
So again, the usage, as far as I can tell here, is immaterial constructs of mind being used to cause understanding of other minds to see the same thing in the same way through that lens. And then that acting on physicality. That's my apologetic for this.
Right on. Well, we hit that hour, Richard.
Yep.
And
Boy,
it was
it's
a good
too
one.
easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, yeah. I wish I had more time. Oh, and Brother Kirk's in the chat.
Right on.
Nice. Well, hey, I wanted to mention the time you've spent on Ace's channel. I've really enjoyed that, those conversations. I guess you guys were referring to a contentious one you had yesterday. I guess I've missed some of the tougher ones, but I think the conversation is respectful and really revealing some cool stuff. So I dig it. I appreciate you spending your time over there. Encourage people to check it out over at Ace Theo's. I don't know if you intend to spend more time over there, but there's probably 4 or 5 streams now where you've prominently hung out that people could check out in the history, you know. So
I contend that expectation results sometimes in disappointment, and that multiple disappointments result in frustration, that multiple frustrations end in anger. So to avoid anger, I try to have no expectation.
Oh, sure.
In the first place.
All right.
So I would
Sounds
like
wise.
to go on there again sometime if the opportunity arises.
Yeah.
Sure. I've enjoyed it.
Cool.
Cade Isclay
Uh-huh.
is very open and receptive. Ace less so, but not impossible.
Right.
JG, I think, is a natural philosopher who's interesting to consider. He's somebody who will make you think about your position.
For
And
sure.
challenging your position is not disagreeing with your position when it comes to JG. It's just flushing out your position.
Right. Right.
Right. So he should never be taken, at least ham-handedly, as offensive. He's not.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
No. No.
Yeah,
He is not. He is saying everything he's saying very carefully. And not to be insulting. All right.
course.
Well, that's my cue to wrap up the show. What is it that are your final ideas on our conversation today, sir?
Well, I'm going to be spending probably the time in between our streams considering how I think about faith and hope, and you know, the distinctions you just laid out. And I'm also going to look a little bit deeper into the whole Pandora mythology and stuff. So
I find it very interesting. I think it's
Yeah,
true.
you know, especially through that lens, I think it'll be kind of a cool thing to dive deeper into. So
So I would
so
wrap up by saying the concretization of faith is the completion of the prophecies of end times.
right, that's
That's
the
when we'll
revelation.
know.
Right, right,
That's when it becomes hope, and until then is faith. Not that faith is completely unreasonable, unjustifiable. It is. It might be. It might not be. Depends on the individual. It might be
right,
inductively sound.
right.
Okay.
That's cool. Thank you so much. Great
Thank you,
talk
sir.
today. Yeah.
And in absentum, thank you, Zebra, uh, and everyone in the side chat. I'm kind of surprised to see Brojo. Maybe he's even. Maybe he's come to be a contrarian. Maybe he's reconsidering his assessment of things I've said in the past, which I hope the latter is the case.
Huh.
That's what I would hope for. That you might actually take serious some of the things that I'm espousing. I'd love to have you in more conversations. I think you're Robert Smalley. Saturday Night Live. I I think you're good enough. I think you're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you.
Sure. I love Brojo. Here's I got a Brojo mug. Here, I'll plug Brojo.
Oh, sweet.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. All right, everybody. Peace. I'm going to hit that button, Richard. I'll see you around.
Thank you, Mac. Have a great day. All right, everybody. I suppose until next time, I want you all to know that I look forward to the day that we're all great friends. Have peace until then. And when I say peace and respect, I mean I wish you to have people treating you with peace and extending you respect, and that you might show the same to them. Because that would be something in the right direction to cause harmony on the earth, which I'd like to see more of. Until next time.